the twisting to get the muscles either side knitted in together. One muscle works, that turns me, but it also stretches the muscle the other side, and then it's easier for that muscle to kick in. Mind sees the movement just before it happens. And my mind is with every centimeter of movement. That's the good mind. The bad one is the one that wants to go AWOL and start thinking to itself. Remember that saying in the classics? The spine is the axle, the waist is the wheel, and the mind is the oil, the lubricant. So this sense here that if my turn is seen by my mind, then it sort of clears the way, but it also brings a certain gravity to it. So it's like you really mean it in a way that you wouldn't if it was just absent-minded. And then just a few tipping. The end that's coming down, I'm trying to pull it towards my hip rather than just letting myself tilt and the stick touching the floor. It's like my lower back doesn't really tilt, it's just bending in the middle. Two halves of the spine, left and right. One is really contracting, the other is really being stretched. Turning towards one of the knees and then just inclining forwards and trying to get the head towards the knee. So if you lead with the chin, so like you're extending the chin forwards, and again, it pulls you out of your lower back. And trying to stay straight spine as long as you can, and then you just let the spine go. just try some of the ones where we bring the stick behind the back. So hands as far apart as you can get them, really. Now just a few pulling and pushing the stick. So trying to pull my hands apart whilst gripping the stick and then changing into pushing them together. I want to try and make the two actions continuous. And I do that by twisting. So let's just pull. Keep the shoulders relaxed. Let the shoulders relax into the elbows. The elbows are trying to move away from each other. And then just twist the hands. So one hand twisting one way, one hand twisting the other. Just gently, just to establish a turning action. And then keep that turning action going, but just start pushing the hands towards each other. And then just reverse the twisting. So the twisting sort of lends continuity to the pulling and the pushing. And then keep the twisting going, but start pulling. And then reverse the twisting. And just keep the twisting going, but start pushing. And reverse the twisting. So the twisting is a bit like your mind, like the mind continuous. So that you can change from a pull to a push without there being a stop. And then go into a push or a pull, whichever one you won't do. And then one more, we'll just reverse the twisting. So keep the pushing going in order to reverse the twisting. And then start pulling. So we want to feel the muscles working close to the spine. So let's just do another one. So keep the twisting going. And then reverse into a push. So this is my belly kicking in a bit. And then I just reverse the twisting, which is a bit like turning, a bit like twisting the spine when we started with the stick. And then just start pulling. pulling the belly in. Make it quite small, like you're really locating the muscles close to the dantian and pulling them in, and then expanding them out. Feel the belly and the back muscles knit together. I want the feeling that it's two actions, but it's one muscle. Pull my belly in. And now to kick in the back muscles, I have to pull the belly in even more. So I really pull the belly in, and that fires the back muscles to then start. And now I have to bend back even more to kick the belly muscles in. So each action is preceded by a little bit of its opposite. Let's stand up. Passive and active legs. As I come into the leg, it passively supports me, and then the other leg can really reach out and grab the ground. The real sense that something comes out of this sacrum, this side, reaches out and pushes the ground this way in order to pull me that way. Getting down towards the ground, into the legs, through the legs. Now just breathing, but again, mind continuous, or to this sense that my mind is sort of intending the action. My mind's a little bit ahead. So my mind is already coming back in and the body follows. In Tai Chi, we have just two states of mind, really. What we call attention, which is really listening, and intention. And intention is difficult. It's a bit like a promise. So, you know, when you say, I intend to go shopping this afternoon, there's a plan set up. Here, I see this movement, I see the movement coming back in, and my body dutifully obeys. But it lends my action meaning. You can tell that when someone is intending, they really mean it. There's nothing accidental about their actions. Trying to get it into the legs. So as you bring the hands in, we're trying to bend the legs more. And then when you bring the hands out, because the arms are straightening and the legs are straightening. And then here the arms are bending to bring the hands in. The legs are bending to try and bring the feet up. So I feel the action of the arms. I feel what's happening in my upper body. And then I just continue repeating it until that action is in the lower body as well, because that's where it needs to be. to riding horse. Feel the structure. So we work quite hard. So you have your spine splitting at the sacrum. So this exercise that we started with really pulls open the sacroiliacs. You get a sense of reaching from the sacrum down the leg. This is what we want when we're standing. I'm very much grabbing the ground, like my feet are trying to pull together. A sense that my knees are further out than my feet. And then we want to feel the central equilibrium. Feel the flow within the stillness. So gravity is flowing down through me, draining into the ground. And my own strength is pushing up through me. And those two are energies that are balanced. What makes it energy rather than force is my ability to keep the system open-ended. As soon as I feel the ground as a hard surface sort of blocking me, then I can push from it, and that's force. If I just feel it like a hole that I just open up to, something flows down me and out and into the ground, something flows up into me. So my points of contact with the world are very much open. It's lovely when you do it with another person. You can just be standing here riding horse, two people with your hands on each other. And you get a real sense that they're draining down through you and you to them. So I always say to the student, we work with each other, we're holding each other, we're leaning, we're supporting each other's weight so that we can feel the same quality in the relationship that we have with the ground. We trust the ground as a source of energy as much as we trust the other person. And now just establish the turning. So let's just do the breathing again. So just in and out. So here the hands are coming together. So the feet are sort of trying to pull together. And then here the hands are moving apart. The legs are trying to do the same thing. So the feet are sort of trying to squeeze that way, just a little bit. And then we allow that to turn the body. So as I open up and push the feet away from each other, I just allow that to turn me one side. It doesn't matter which side. And then when I pull the feet together and bring the hands in, I come back to the front and then I push again and I turn the other way. Here I want to really straighten this back leg. And then when it bends, it catches. It's like a trigger. It's like a bang, a snap. It's got suddenness to it. So I straighten the leg and the arm, and then I bend it to pull me around the other way. go into the first form of exercise, knocking the gate of life. Not the same action in the legs to produce the turn. So the leg that's straightened pushes me completely away from the center, and then it bends to pull me back to the center, and then the other leg straightens to send me this way. Or to feel the feet alternating in order to produce this turn. To allow the hand, the front, to really come away from the body. Because this leg is straightening. And then when I bend this leg and pull the hand in, it comes behind me and hits the men. The front hand is expressing the centrifugal aspect of the turn. And the one that's coming in around the back is expressing the centripetal. I really want to get it into the legs. The legs are not just supporting me, they're turning me. Let's try this one. Again, just getting into the legs. So breathing the ground up into the dantian, or even higher, and then out. And so we come up almost reluctantly. So attention, listening, listening rather than seeing. When I see something, I separate from it. I sort of pull away from it to get a better view. I'm tempted to name it, separate it even more. When we hear things, it's almost like we're grabbing the world and bringing it into the ears. So it's a nice meditation just to hear all the layers of sound. The big freeway, you can just about hear its rumble. And then closer in, you've got the car alarms, you've got the people walking in the street, and gradually gets closer and closer until you're just hearing the rumble of the blood pumping around your own body. Let's try the two circles. Again, with mind continuous. When you have mind continuous, you look like this prowling animal that's completely attuned. So no carelessness, no suddenness. So we're really guarding against automatic. And that will slip in all the time. So you really have to watch it. Central equilibrium. Feet have to be open. The sense that the foot is expanding, but also a sense that my root is going into the earth. Moving back and forwards. Trying to keep my hips facing front. So when I come forwards, I really have to straighten my back leg to make sure that this hip is not trailing. And then when I go back, I have to really straighten the front leg to make sure that this hip keeps up with this one. Feeling the three phases of the action of the leg again. So this leg is straightening, toes really reaching out, and then it bends. So those are two active phases. And then as the weight comes into it, it supports. That's passive, allowing the other leg to become active. So this now straightens, bends, supports, straightens, bends, supports. So the activity is as far away from my weight as possible. So the spirit is in the empty foot. Spirit reaches, stretches out, and then it just suddenly catches, and that starts the movement the other way. And then let's try the other leg. Same thing, but now let's try this exercise. Same thing as what we were doing before, but before we use the arm to reach with the straightening leg like this. But then we can just bring that back arm to push forwards. It's really looking at that point where the straight starts to bend, starts to become round. I really want a sense of expanding into that. I'm not contracting into the bending, I'm expanding into it. And then that will open the chest, hollow the chest. So here my shoulder blade gets thrown out, and that allows the arm to curl up like this. But it's an expansion. It's not a contraction. So the impulse to yield is the hollowing of the chest. Embracing, letting something in and wrapping around it. Then I can turn, but not before. So first of all, I embrace, and then both of us can turn. Good. Let's just try just a little bit of that heart qigong. So first of all, just establish the up and down. Like you're like a spring. You can go all the way down. And then just reaching out. Let's try this one. So just the simple down. And this sense that the arms are never quite together. There's always one that's leading a little bit. So you're always wanting to turn. So we have the central equilibrium up and down, but we also have the central equilibrium between turning left, turning right. So when I'm standing still, As well as there being an inclination to bend my legs, there's an inclination to turn. So if there's any action in the upper body, it's because it's wriggled up through the legs from the ground, not because my cleverness is imposing a structure. And for that to bring the energy up, you need the turns really. You do actually need to wriggle. So twist side to side a little bit to get the energy flowing along this circuit. So it's in the mind, but not just the mind. Or this sense that my two legs have come up, twisted around themselves in my torso, and then come out of my arms. So my arms are just extensions of my legs. So what's expressing in the hand is just the ground. Completely a function of my relationship with the ground. I'm trying not to become clever, and that's difficult. It just becomes the figure of 8, which has a certain magic. So part of my mind is turning this way to do the top of this figure of 8, but another part of my mind is really reaching down almost behind me to do the bottom of this figure of 8. So those two minds are sort of tugging at each other. And this is the waist, or my interpretation of the waist, as opposed to the hips. Organic movement rather than mechanical movement. Mechanical movement would come from my hips and my legs turning my hips side to side. This is very much something writhing away in my waist, so above my hips. I'm using the tightening, the writhing here in my waist to sort of squeeze the movement along this tube. It's like the walls of the tube, the walls of the path for the energy are springy. And this is almost like a peristaltic action that squeezes the energy along And now let's try the pacing, going from foot to foot. I want to feel the heel descending into the ground rather than simply settling upon it. So I'm injecting my root. So for that, I need a sense of just letting go to let the energy relax down. But I also need a real focus so that I'm focusing into a point so that I can get penetration. And then just stepping. So it's really tempting to do it wrong, as we know. So I've got to sink through the ground. And then I settle into the foot, and then I can get that penetration down from this heel. And it just allows the back heel to come up. You don't need to do that, but you feel the alternating better. And then here I sink into this root. Step, move, and then right at the last minute, really, as the weight goes into the foot, it focuses down into the ground. So my sinking requires a relaxation, which will tend to spread out, but it also requires a concentration, which will focus into a point. The one we start with is the relaxation. And then slowly, as the mind becomes quieter, we've got the ability to focus it. And then let's just try this exercise that we normally do without the stepping. Again, I want to really round out here. And then this is really straight in the same way that my descending root is straight. And then it rounds out. So this sense of hollowing my chest in order to draw the other person in. The same action happens in the leg. So I'm hollowing my chest, I'm hollowing my groin here to bring the ground up. So I'm yielding to the ground with my lower body, yielding to the other person with my upper body. And the one that's difficult is the lower body. Okay. So opening up. It's not just opening, something in you has to reach out and connect with the thing that's coming in. And that's spirit. Very much a sense that as the thing approaches you, your mind has got behind it and is just giving it a little helping hand. The same way when you hug, you send your arms out behind the person. And then if you really mean it, your hands would actually pull them in towards you. This is the attention. It's a really spirited thing. It's not simply being passively being aware of the world. It's more than simple awareness. It's a real hunger to connect. And for me, this is how something like Tai Chi, that's very much to do with interacting with another person. For me, contains a higher level than simply consciousness work, where you're just sitting there and trying to become still and trying to just be in your being. It's interesting with Heidegger was the great modern philosopher of being. So he said that's the important thing, ontology, it's the important thing. Why is there something rather than nothing? And if you actually meditate on it, it just fucks you up. And then he had a student, Emmanuel Levinas, who was Jewish. And this was sort of just before and after the Holocaust. So he came and said, no, there's something that precedes being, and that's ethics. That's your willingness to connect to the other, the willingness to put the other one first before you even consider your own being. And that's quite beautiful. That's very much like Tai Chi. So we put the other person first, not because we want to be nice people, but because it works. That's the way you get the better of them in a fight. But philosophically, it's really deep. And it will take you somewhere. It's like a journey into the unknown. So when I regard something, when I look at something, we have that tendency to slip back, look at it, name it, and then dismiss it, go on to the next one. So what we would like is the noticing to really pique our interest. So I see that thing, think, oh, that's interesting. And then my mind is swarming over it. My mind is caressing the objects that you encounter. And the world feels that. The world will open up to you because it feels that compassion. This is what we've lost. We've lost that ability to really touch the world in a gentle, soft way. We see things that we want, and then we try and get them. We see things that we don't want, and we just dismiss it. What comes before my naming of the thing is my desire to really reach out and make a relationship, to befriend it. Bring it up. What this feeling that my legs can really bend. And that desire to reach out and touch things, it is very much desire. It's like libido. It's like there's a sort of sexuality to it, certainly a sensuality. It's like little kids, when they pass a cat, they see a cat. First inclination is always to reach out towards it. They just want to stroke it. two legs are sort of wriggling with each other. But also the front and the back of each leg is wriggling. So my quad and my hamstring are in this constant tussle.